Welcome to this video. This video is designed to get you started on document templating and signing. So getting started, we're going to look at document templating. We're going to have a look at what the benefits of using Completed for document distribution is. We're going to be getting started on using documents, creating documents, sending them for signing, and also briefly looking at the parent experience so that you can help support parents who are using the system to return their documents. So you probably all recognise forms like this that go out to parents, and quite often there's loads of boxes that you've actually got that information already from the parent about the child or about the parents themselves. And they spend a lot of time filling in information that they've already given you at some point. What Completed tries to do is it tries to remove some of the duplication about this so that you're delivering documents that are consistent in format, but they are also filled with certain bits of information so the parent can update maybe if something has changed. But for the majority of the time, the information is on there and they can just review it and maybe confirm that it's all correct. The other benefit of this is that you've got a really clean and consistent way of actually building the document sets to send out to parents. Centrally, you can create the document templates and then just attach them as applicable to the admissions that you're sending them out to. So let's have a look at how document building looks really. So this is an example of the registration form we just looked at. And the key kind of concept behind document templating in particular is this idea that it's broken down into sections. So if we have a look at this, basically that it's built up of several key content blocks. We've got a section of pre-known information about the pupil that we want to check and confirm against. We've maybe got a section of some pre-filled information about parent or parents that we want them to read and confirm and make and provide any adjustments if needs be. We've got sections of text, so this could be terms and condition elements, but it could just be a description of what's coming next on the page. And then usually at the bottom of a document you've got a signature section. Each one of those sections is essentially a row on your template. And what we're going to do as we come across these is we're going to actually build our template one of these blocks at a time. So just moving on to a slightly different part of the document, we've got some other parts here, just really to highlight some of the different types of elements that you might want to build. So on this page, we've got a section of text. It's slightly bigger in this case, and you've got some formatting, so you've got titles and things like that. But you've then got some checkboxes that you might need ticking. So it might be an either or situation, so we can group checkboxes together so that only one of the maybe 2 or 3 options are allowed to be picked at a time. But then you've also got checkboxes like the third one here, which can just be ticked or unticked and don't actually relate to anything else. So when we come to the checkboxes later, the idea of grouping is this idea of either or. So it's where you'd have a couple of checkboxes and you want it to kind of switch between the two of them. We've then got another section of text before we then have some information inputs. So quite often you might need to collect some information on these that you don't actually have already. So this section here about emergency contacts, for example, is just a section that they would fill in. You don't necessarily already have that information, or you want them to fill it in so that they can confirm it. So in Completed, we've got several of these blocks that we can assign to a template and start building. So in terms of the options, when you choose your content, you'll get a little drop down. You have sections of formatted text. They can have bold writing, italic, underlined, bullet points, all the things you typically do, basically in Word and things like that. And the actual template, when we look at it shortly, you'll see that actually it's fairly familiar. It looks like a Word toolbar at the top, and you can add your text in there. We have comparison sections where maybe you're comparing pupil data and giving an option for people to update it, or likewise with parent information, you might want to give what's already in the system and then they can confirm that. And then you've got a set of inputs that you might ask for some more information. So that could be in the form of text, it could be a date, maybe a date of birth, or it could be files. So it could be things like birth certificates and things that you might want people to provide proof of. And then at the bottom of it, you'll have a signature block. Now in CompleteEd, the signature block will be repeated for all the signatories that are included on a document. Again, we'll come to that later, but it just repeats through. And when we do things like the comparison parts, you can actually set that to, if you've got more than one parent, you can get it to either be for just the first signatory, or you can confirm for all of signatories, and it will actually build a section for each of the parents that are included. So let's just have a quick look at the comparison thing. So when I'm talking about comparing elements, this is typically how it would end up looking. So you would have fields, for example, maybe a title for a first name, surname, email address. It could be phone numbers and things. There's various options for choosing what you want to include. The system will go into the database, find the field, find the information that's already there, and provide a text box that, like here on the right, where the parent can then click and actually change or supply new information. Now that new information doesn't automatically update the record, it just allows you to see what they've said, so that you can then sanitize it. It may be that they've got the wrong end of the stick about something, and you just need that extra little step in between before it gets applied to the actual database. But it's there nicely for you, will be presented for you in a nice easy way for you to understand what's been changed, what's been updated. And if nothing's been updated, then it'll flag basically to say that there's no new comparison information. So let's have a look at how we build a template. So for this, I'm going to actually switch over to CompleteEd and actually show you on the live system. Okay, so here's a demo school that we've got here. This demo school currently doesn't have any templates assigned to it. So as you're coming to your schools, you'll probably find that you've got nothing pre-set up and that you're going to be starting from scratch. So let's do that. Let's set up a new template. So I'm going to click New Template. I've got a few options here that I need to give the template. So first of all, I'm going to give it a name. So this could be maybe our registration pack. Or registration form, probably. It's an individual document that you're doing here. So I'm going to give it a category. This is for maybe admissions. Categories are really just there to help you bundle things together. So when you end up with lots of documents, they can be grouped together and things, or maybe searched for via the category. I'm going to give it a file name. So when it's downloaded to a user, this is the file that it would actually be given. So again, I'm just going to call it registration form. Now, it's not necessary, but I don't like putting spaces in file names because when you download things, sometimes some file systems on computers don't like spaces. Majority of these days are fine with it. It's just a personal preference. I'm going to just call it registration form. Now, it's important to note here that you don't need to give it an extension, so you don't need like the .pdf or .doc or anything like that. It'll automatically handle that for you. And then the final step here is to choose a permission profile. So when the document is created, this is who will have access to actually view it. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to click, and this is admissions. So I'm going to give this the admissions permission. So then I just click add, and straight away I've now got the basis of my template for this registration form. Now you'll see various buttons along here, so I can preview the latest version. That will be empty at the moment, and a published version, but you can see here we've got no published version yet. We've got a button to look at the version history on the right hand side. We'll have a look at that in a moment once we made a few changes and it's been populated. So let's go in now and let's edit the template. So if I click on this, we've got nothing in here at the moment. So the first thing I need to do is add a content row, and this is basically those horizontal blocks of the document that we want to add. It comes up and says, what do you want to add? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a text block in. So I choose text block from the list, click on OK, and straight away in there I can put that in. So I'm just going to go and find some text to put in here a moment. So I've just pasted in some text in there. You can play around with the formatting, so you can make things bold, underlined. You've got a whole load of style formats there that you can choose from. If I want even a specific word to be bold, I can make it bold, I can underline it, entirely up to you. You can add bullet points, you can do paragraph formatting, centering, you can indent, outdent, various different things. You can have a little play with that as much as you like. One tip I would give to you as you're building these, if I press enter, you'll see there's quite a large gap in between the paragraph. So the next paragraph goes here. Okay. If sometimes though you just want it to go down to the next line without creating the gap in between, you can actually press shift and enter at the same time, which will put it down to the next line without the extra gap in between. So that's just a little tip as you're using these sections, and that's the same whenever you see this type of input on completed. So I'm just going to leave it with the one paragraph for now. So I'm going to save that for now. Let's add another content row. So I'm going to add in now let's do a check input. So I'm going to add a check input into here, and you'll see I've got a variety of options on here. So the first thing I've got is a field name, and all the inputs will have that. So when you create this list of these sections, whenever there's an input, imagine you're getting a spreadsheet, and down one side you've got the kind of a column of the names of the information, the field names. So this is what that would be essentially. So when you get your kind of report later of what information is being returned, it makes it easy to identify what bit of information is what. So in this case, maybe it's this checkbox is actually saying, do you agree to the mailing preferences? So I might want to call it mail yes, for example, so you can see, or mail preference or something. The grouping checkboxes I'll come on to in a moment. I'll do another one in a second where it's kind of one or the other, because that's what that does, and it's just a case of making sure that the name matches up. But then you've got also the make required option. And then finally underneath here, you can choose what it is that you want. I am happy for the school to contact me. Obviously, you can make it more detailed. So I'll save that. And I'm just going through and saving these so we can build up a bit of a version history, because every time you click save, it saves that in that version history, and then you can go back and even revert to previous versions if you've made a change you don't particularly like. So let's add another row on. So I'm just going to add now 2 check inputs for this idea of the kind of like image allowing photo consent. So I'm going to add a content row again, and I'm going to make this one another check input. Okay, so I've got 2 check inputs there. So I'm going to say image okay. Ooh, can't spell. And image no. So hopefully it makes sense. The okay one is yes, or I can do it yes. So they agree to the image photos being taken. The no is that they don't. Now the reason I'm kind of doing yes and no on these is just so that when it returns, it will actually return a value against that field. So the image yes will basically come back as a 1 to say yes, and the no will be 0 if they've ticked that, and it'll be the other way around. So I'm going to make both of those required because I want them to have to choose one or the other. And then for this, I'm just going to give them both the same name. Now, it doesn't matter what you use here. So it could be image consent, it could just be the word image, it could be just the letter I if you want. If you do use the letter I, or image or whatever it is, just be aware that if you use the same on another set of checkboxes somewhere else in the document, it will then assume that they're all together. So it will kind of apply them all in the same group. So try and make it unique if you can on your page. So I'm just going to put some text against each of these. So I agree for photos. Please don't use my image. Okay. So again, let's save that. And then the final part just for this demo for now, I'm just going to add one more content row, and I'm going to add a comparison block. So this is the idea of comparing information that's in the system already. Now, if you've got parents who maybe are estranged, or there's an acrimonious split, or maybe even a court order so that information shouldn't be displayed across parents, I would always recommend using a separate envelope for each parent. The reason being is that the signatories of documents will see the previous entries, so this shouldn't be shared where there isn't already that natural consent. So that's just very much to be aware, and it's in that red writing there just to be really clear. Hopefully it makes sense, and hopefully we can just make sure that everything stays nice and clean. So in this case, I'm not going to do a pupil. I'm going to check the contacts, and I'm going to choose the one for actually repeated. So say there's a mother and a father on the inquiry. It will be, and mother's been signing number 1 and dad is signing number 2. It will actually show the details for mum and then the details for dad, and they can confirm them, update if they need to, and things. And on here, all you just need to do is tick the bits that you want to include. So for example, I might want to include the title, first name, surname, email address, and maybe a telephone number. At this point, maybe I don't want to include anything else. Entirely up to you. You can tick as many or as few of these as you want. Okay, so I'm going to save that. And then actually there is one more bit I'm going to add to here, which is the signature block. So obviously every document that you send out really will have a signature block on the bottom, and you don't need to do any settings on here. It automatically just adds them, and it will repeat for each of the people that you send it to. So the final thing I'm just going to show you on here is that, so let me just save that again. So the final bit on here is just to show you that you can obviously click the dustbins to remove a row, but you can also use the this button on the left here to actually drag to change the order. So maybe this comparison part I actually want to put further up, and maybe I want it to be above the checkboxes. And then maybe I want to just underneath here say, please confirm your details below. So you can put some instructions above, just so that it does. So don't forget, you can put as many blocks of text as you want. So if you want to put a bit of text before the checkboxes, you can add another one in there and so on. So let's just save this now, and actually I'm going to publish it at the same time. So I'm going to save it and publish it. I'm going to go back to my list. So you'll see that it's now published. It does show that there's no outstanding changes. If I click on version history, you'll see all of those changes. When I was saving it, you can see all those different changes in there, and you can see that the latest one is in use. You can revert to a previous version, and you can also preview what that version looked like maybe before you revert to it. So it's really nice and easy to kind of go backwards and forwards and see, but also be clear about which one is currently in use. So let's have a look at what this actually looks like. If I click on the preview button, it goes away, packages it as a PDF. These parts here that show kind of with the kind of curly braces, they'll be replaced by the inputs. So they'll be the bits that you'll see, and where there's just like a thin line there, they're going to be the checkboxes. So you can see pretty much exactly how it's going to look to the parents. Okay, so that is basically building the template. So I'm just going to very quickly, and I'll speed this up in a moment. I'm going to create a new file, another file. So maybe it's a medical form. So on this medical form, I'm just going to add some inputs really to collect some information about the thing. Obviously, if this was a real form, you'd probably have a section at the top to introduce it and say, you know, to look after your children effectively, please confirm the following information, whatever it is that you want to put in there. I'm just going to show you because I just want to demonstrate the kind of text input part. Again, we've got a field name. So this could be, to start with, the emergency contact name. Okay, and you can choose what type of how the input looks. So you can choose an input group. You can do it vertical, which is horizontal, or you can choose it vertical. So you can choose that kind of layout of where it sits on a page, however you feel it looks nicest. Personally, I quite like the input group because it matches with the comparison layouts that we have. So it just kind of keeps that uniformity going. And then you can choose what label you actually want on the page. So that's what goes in this left-hand side. So the field name is how it's returned to you to identify it in that list. The field name is what is shown, this label is what is shown to the parent. So emergency contact name. And you'll see it updates down here to show you roughly what it's going to look like. I'm going to make this a required field. Again, I'm just going to go through and add a few more elements here. Okay, so I've just added an extra field on here for an emergency mobile, and maybe I need a checkbox to say that the school can administer medication, for example. So I'm going to put a check input in here, and then say I am happy for the school to administer. Okay. Again, so field name again is what's returned to the values against, and checkbox will return 1 for yes and 0 for no. So let's save and publish that. And I'm going to go back to my list, and now I've got 2 on here, so I can preview the medical form. So there's the bits that I've just added, and I can preview the registration form. There's all the sections that we've got. Okay, so now that we've built our kind of templates, how do we actually then send the document? So again, I'm going to go back to CompleteEd in a moment, and essentially what we're going to do is we're going to attach the the document to an admission record. So let's have a look at some of the concepts, the basics involved with this. So the basics are a single envelope can contain multiple documents. So the envelope can have multiple documents that need signatures. That one envelope can be sent to more than one of the relations, and it can only be sent to people who are on the contacts list for that particular child. So obviously you can send it to grandparents, things if you want, but they do need to be added as a relation in the record. One thing to be really clear though is that the documents are the person who they're being sent to is identified by their email address, which means you can't have the situation where 2 people have the same email address on the system. So, and then the final thing is that because each envelope is sent out, but it can be multiple people, that is only one envelope in terms of envelope credits. But the key idea is that if you send it to 50 people, it's still one envelope if they're bundled together as that one envelope. If you've got 10 documents for those 50 people, it's still one envelope if they're created in the one document pack, not one envelope. So you can be quite, if you're careful, you can actually reduce your need for credits quite severely. When you send it out, the recipient will get a branded mail saying that they've been sent a document. Where the CompleteEd logo is here, it will be replaced by the school's branding, and obviously where it says CompleteEd Limited iSchool there, it will be replaced by the school's name. Signable is our partner for this, so it does mention things like Signable on there. That's the company that run it and maintain the legally binding ledger of signatures and information that goes with these. Okay. the person who sent the email, so the person who generated the document pack and then clicked the send or package and send button, will get a copy from Signable when it's sent, and they'll also get an email to say that people have actually signed their documents. So let's have a look at how we actually then do the sending. Right, so let's have a look at this. So we've got admission record here. This is somebody who's in the pipeline, as it were, and I've got a section under admissions which says documents for signing, and at the moment nothing's been assigned to this person, so it does say none found. So let's add an envelope, and I'm going to call this, do you know what, I'm going to call it registration pack because it makes sense. Create that. And so straight away underneath, I've now got an envelope, and it shows me it's not been sent. You can do this without fear of sending. It's really clear when it gets to the point of actually sending that document or the set of documents. So at the moment, I haven't got any documents in here. To keep this page nice and tidy, it just gives you the highlight on the top, but you can always click expand details to see more underneath. And so at the moment, you'll see that nothing's been added. So let's add a document. So I'm going to click add document. I then choose from one of the two templates that I've published. Remember, they do need to be published. There needs to be a published version for them to appear in this list. So I'm going to add the registration form. So this is Carly. You just call this registration form or whatever you want. It's just a title that goes on the document in the signing system. You can put a person's name in there if you want. This is for this individual admissions record. So I'm going to add that. And then I'm going to add another document for that medical form. So I've now got 2 documents in there. Again, you can hit the preview button to see the document, so it'll load them up, go to templating, load them up, and then things like the signatory box appears at the bottom and things like that. Now, obviously, it's not linked to any records at the moment yet, so which is why it's not pulling anything, but it shows you where those things would go. So we've got the 2 documents on the system. It's as easy as that. Just add document, give it a name, and go. So you can add 5 documents really quickly, probably in less than a minute. And then it's just a case of saying who it wants to go to. So I'm going to click add a signatory, and it's just looking through. So I've got one person here, so I'm going to add them. And I'm going to add another signatory underneath. So I've now got 2 people. I can see the email addresses needs be. I've got details, and here where it says signer 1 and signer 2. So signer 1 is the primary signer. So if there are bits that only need one parent to fill in, it would be signer 1 who fills that in. So if it does matter, you can delete people and re-add them in the order that you want. Okay, so I'm happy that those 2 people are there, and they're the people who should be adding to it. If I now actually preview, for example, the registration form that's got some comparisons, because I've got some signatories on here, it now actually shows me exactly how it will look to the parents. And obviously the check boxes, they will actually tick them themselves. But that's basically the layout of the document that they will receive. So once you're happy with everything, it's just a case of clicking package and send. On the button, it tells you how many credits the school has got left. Obviously, if you run out, you won't be able to send, you'll need to top up, and that's done in the credit manager page. But once you click it, it just does a quick confirmation just to make sure that you're happy, because as soon as it's been sent, it can't be modified anymore. You can't add any new documents to it. It will use the credit up. So just be sure before you send it that you're happy with it. In this case, I'm going to click yes. And you'll see that the bits for kind of adjusting the bottom have gone. It shows now that it's in processing, and shortly it will process and it will be available for parents to sign and get an email to say that. Okay, so you can see that the page is automatically updated. It shows now that it's incomplete, which means it's all been sent, but somebody or some people are outstanding on it. And essentially what will happen is the parents will get an email to say that it's ready to complete. As you saw earlier on, it's that formatted email. They click on the link on the email and they can complete it. In terms of the parent experience, they log into the parent app, and essentially for those schools that use things like club and activity booking and parents' evenings through the parent app, if the parent has any admissions children, they will appear under admissions. If they also have children who are at the school who maybe they need to book clubs for and things, they'll see a section for on roll. If they only have one or the other, this selection doesn't actually show because there's no need to switch. So it's quite clever in that sense. You'll see underneath that I've got, in this example, I've got two two children in my parent account here. One of them, the registration is complete and all documents are signed, and one of them has got a document pack that's been sent to them for signature. When you click on the actual tile itself for the person, it goes through to another page where it shows kind of the route that people will take to join the school. All the text on that page is customizable. If you go to the admission steps page, you can customize them entirely at the bottom. And basically, it allows you to tailor that kind of experience and expectations for the parent. But what you'll see is it also shows the status of where the documents are at, so there's one outstanding. So they can be really clear about what is outstanding from their part versus and where they're up to in the process and what comes next. There is actually a button underneath as well to actually book open days, which might be quite useful to parents rather than having to go through the web inquiry bit. They just click and it books them straight in automatically. And this page is automatically updated once people have signed those documents. But it means that parents have now got a single place. So when they inquire, first of all, they use the app or the web portal as an admissions tool. And then once the children join the school, they then use it for the other functions within the school, things like clubs and activities booking. You can send newsletters, you can see all the parent communications, all those kind of things. So it's a kind of a nice, easy thing, and they're not having to switch between different systems at different times.